My name is Charlotte Thomson Iserbyt, and I served as Senior Policy Advisor in the United States Department of Education under the Reagan administration, during which I had access to all of the most important documents for the restructuring of not only American education, but global education. And I'm also the author of The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, which gets into all of this, gives the background of what I saw not only in the Department of Education, but as a local school board member. I was trained to identify the resistors to the sex ed, drug ed, alcohol ed, suicide ed, death ed, those good, smart Americans who realize that anything that has education hanging off the end of it is probably not what they're looking for. I was trained to identify those good people and to go up against them, and actually to go and try to get them to join us through the group process system, make them feel important, get them on a committee. And when that just blew my mind. I have to say, people often ask me, what is it that got you involved in education? Well, finding out what I saw at the local level certainly upset me. When I went and I saw that Americans were being trained to identify resistors, you know, then I got pretty upset. And luckily, there was a big book that came with the in-service training called Innovations in Education, A Change Agent's Guide. And I was able to take that back home with me. Unbelievable examples of how to con the Christians and different people who are upset with what you're trying to do, and just to give you an idea of how blatant they are, Benjamin Bloom said the purpose of education, and I often say this to parents, really listen to this. You think the purpose of education is reading, writing, and arithmetic? The purpose of education is to change the thoughts, actions, and feelings of students. And then he goes on and he says, he defines good teaching, and this is even worse from the parental standpoint, as challenging the student's fixed beliefs. And then, in some of his works that I have, that are in my book, a lot of this stuff is in it.
When he says challenge, does he mean challenge or does he mean change? Change their fixed?
Yeah, through challenging. It's through challenging. You go up against them, and you change them. And
hello everyone, welcome to GGN. This is part 2 for this news report. Today it's Friday, March 8th, 2013. I'm Darko. My website is ggnonline.com, and on YouTube, my channels are ddarko2012 and ddarko2013. This first article I have for you is nearly 80% of New York City public high school grads at, I guess it's CUNY, Community College, requires remedial English or math classes. So nearly 80% of city public high school graduates who enrolled in a City University of New York Community College last year had to relearn the basics of reading, writing, or math, the highest percentage in years. It says here it's up from 71% in 2007 to 79%. The ballooning numbers come despite the state having raised the requirements to graduate from high school in each of the past 5 years. Well, when you're lowering the standards incrementally over the generations, I don't think it's going to really do much, right? Those students were then forced to shell out money for non-credit bearing courses for as much as $1,000 a pop, they said, before they could start making their way towards a college degree. School children losing the power to concentrate in class, a generation of internet-obsessed school children is losing the ability to concentrate in lessons and make proper conversations with friends, according to a leading headmaster. One of the biggest things is smartphones, too. But the influence of social media, game consoles, mobile phones on students' lives is one of the biggest crises facing the modern education system. So this individual from the Society of Heads, which represents 100 independent schools, says national attention deficit syndrome because children spend so much time plugged into screen-based entertainment, so they're now unable to concentrate for more than the shortest of periods. The decline is being fueled by a breakdown in traditional family units, with children expending large amounts of energy being pulled between divorced parents. So it says here he will tell the conference, which will be attended by the Princess Royal, that schools should focus on developing the students' creativity, which actually is considered a a disorder, psychological disorder now, the DSM. So be careful. And emotional awareness, emotional instability, I'm sure that's another disorder, instead of a narrow emphasis on improving exam results. So it's another way of dumbing them down, is by having these exams, right? You just teach the exams to the students so they don't have to actually think. So the Mr. Body suggests that children are also struggling to make face-to-face conversation with their peers because of the influence of social networking sites. Children think that they have friends when Facebook tells them so, but they are losing the art of proper concentrated conversation. They're losing the ability to respond to seeing a need, i.e. empathy, because they are not aware enough that a need is there. So the country that stopped reading. So it goes on there and it talks about a requirement for what? For an ad from looking for dishwashers, says a secondary school diploma. Years ago, school was not for everyone. Classrooms were places for discipline. So it goes on there. It says that nowadays more children attend school than ever before, but they learn much less. They learn almost nothing. The proportion of the Mexican population that is literate is going up, but in absolute numbers, there are more illiterate people in Mexico now than there were 12 years ago. Even if baseline literacy, the ability to read a street sign or news bulletin, is rising, the practice of reading an actual book is not. Says one reasonably well-educated country, Mexico took the spot, says here, out of 108 countries. This is interesting. They say, how is it possible that I hand over a child for 6 hours every day, 5 days a week, and you give me back someone who is basically illiterate? So if you can engineer the masses, the sheeple, the plebes, to be dumbed down, you can also engineer to make certain individuals, the elite class, or the gold class, the silver class, to be more intelligent. Scientists enhance intelligence of mice with human brain cells. So it goes on and says, by grafting human glial cells in the brains of mice, neuroscientists were able to sharply enhance their cognitive capabilities, including augmentations to memory, learning, and adaptive conditioning. It's a breakthrough that could yield important insights in the treatment of human brain disorders. This goes in line with all this other stuff, right? Geneticists discover a way to extend lifespans to 800 years. And this, temporary tattoos could make electronic telepathy and telekinesis possible. These electronic tattoos. And this goes in line with having all these autonomous, quote, autonomous robots and machines that are going to be at the whim, or at the direction, at the order of the human. And this is where it gets into the kind of the split, where, you know, we're talking about singularity, basically. And if the machines are going to take over humanity, basically, just end them. So this is, they're trying to devise this non-invasive means of controlling machines via the mind, techniques virtually everyone might be able to use. So what happens when the machine just says, okay, well, get out of here. We don't need you anymore. Your processing speed is too slow. U.S. soldiers of the future will be genetically modified transhumans capable of superhuman feats. So this is from August 2012. We've already covered this. Just putting it in here to tie it all together. This is what it's for. So it's not going to be for the plebes, the super intelligence and telekinesis. It's going to be for them, the elites, and their kind of under servants. Special Forces and that. Special Forces soldiers drop plan to infiltrate Utah. Army Special Forces soldiers will not infiltrate Utah communities this summer. I'm sure they're going to be upset about that. A plan that had riled up residents suspicious of the government's motives. Well, they have a humongous NSA spy center there in the country, the biggest one. So I think this is just another thing where they're like, okay, enough's enough. So Green Berets had planned to parachute into several central Utah counties across mountains and work with Utahns, you never heard that before, who would be playing roles as resistors to an enemy regime. I wonder who that could be. Maybe the Spetsnaz, who are just a country over in Colorado, pretty much stationed, being eyewitnesses reporting them out in the malls and stuff. Government wants to expand assassination program to cover associates of Al-Qaeda. So the U.S. government already claims the power to assassinate, indefinitely detain, or torture anyone in Al-Qaeda or its associated forces. In the name of fighting Al-Qaeda or associated forces, or those who support those bad guys, the government is authorized assassinating people anywhere in the world without due process or even a legal charge, including U.S. citizens. So, and of course, detaining them, kidnapping, abducting them, renditions without trial. torturing, including Americans living on American soil, and labeling virtually anyone American as terrorists. Now the government wants to allow targeting associates of Al-Qaeda. So this is from the Washington Post. So it says here, a new generation of Al-Qaeda offshoots is forcing the Obama regime to examine whether the legal basis of its targeting killing program can be extended to militant groups with little or no connection to the organization responsible for the attacks on September 11th. Again, everything will be tied back to September 11th. Everything will be tied back to the bin Laden raid. Give legal justification for whatever the hell they want to do. So, as if there's a debate in this world of engineered consent where things are just shoved down your throat, and they give you a nice little public relations article probably written by the Pentagon. It says here, should there be more armed guards in schools in the wake of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, which some people say didn't even take place. It's like the bin Laden raid, but hey, who cares, right? We just got to keep moving forward. Don't look back. South Dakota law will allow guns in classrooms. So South Dakota on Friday signed a law that basically would allow teachers to carry guns in the classrooms. It would be the first state. Officer who fired shot in New York high school is suspended. New York Town began assigning an armed police officer to guard a high school in the wake of the Connecticut massacre, suspended the program after an officer accidentally discharged his pistol in a hallway while classes were in session. Manchester police officer shot by fellow officer during college lockdown. So pretty crazy. After about 24 hours after lockdown was lifted, the community college, the campus seemed back to normal. Lockdown was issued after a student reported seeing a man with a handgun protruding out from his waistband. 4,000 people were under a shelter-in-place emergency, so cower down and hide and don't do anything to defend yourself. So during the basically the fear operation, lockdown, a Manchester police officer was shot in the foot. However, did not shoot himself. It was accidental discharge by another officer. The fear operation was a success, as some students say it was hard to come back to the community college. My parents actually had to convince me to come back to the indoctrination facility. Next up, Cypress High School's student suspended for disarming gunmen. So a student gets 3-day suspension after wrestling away a gun. So there you go. That's what happens when you try to defend yourself. Washington state bill allows police to search students without parental consent. Well, they're already used to having their privacy invaded in their lockers and having cops everywhere. And now these shooter drills, bomb drills. So it's just another step, right? Back in the olden days, where you put your kid in a re-education camp, they can kind of discipline them, I guess. And now with everything being so PC, you can't do that. And now they can't. Now they're taking the authority to the next step and not having just educators discuss with the parents of the students. Now the cops just come in and arrest you, right? You see stories like that all the time now. Truancy Task Force in Texas. They have all these truancy task forces because it's vital to keep the future slaves in these re-education camps. The story about the police officer that went to someone's house because they were truant. Come to school. We have Be a Victim, cop advice for home invasions. Go check this out. It says Project Veritas visited a police station nationwide and asked law enforcement officials how they could protect themselves in the event of an armed break-in. It says go get some bleach, go get some ammonia, one officer instructed. Yet another officer instructed the undercover journalist to lock yourself in a bedroom and start yelling and screaming. That's actually what they tell on the website down in Texas for students in a shooter drill too. Just lock yourself up, scream and yell. But he's asking about what happens in the 2 minutes that I'm waiting for you, and they don't have an answer for him. So Jersey cop appears to punch woman in the face outside a club. So police are investigating a YouTube video where a woman outside a club in New Jersey appears to grab a police officer who then punches her in the face. Florida may require anger management course before buying ammo. So if you want to buy ammo in Florida, you soon may have to pass an anger management course. So it has some people speechless, but a Florida senator says it will increase public safety. She wants people to stop and think before they buy. Don't worry about the cops' anger management. We have here, Bloomberg-backed anti-gun lobbyist enjoys assault weapons. One of the mayor's top gun control lobbyists in Colorado appears to enjoy firing the very guns he's working to restrict. California approves $24 million for gun confiscation program. It'll help to speed up the confiscation of guns for people who have been disqualified from owning firearms because of criminal convictions or serious mental illnesses. This article, more gun laws equal fewer deaths, says a study. UC Davis researcher says that this gun law study is inconclusive. The fact that two things are present at the same time does not mean that one of those things caused the other. This is GGN, and I'm Darko.